Okay, so something we mentioned, I think 5 weeks ago, is that there is no coincidence between the Parshias, the Sedras, and the themes of the year. Right. So what the theme of the Parshias is always going to intersect or interface with something that's going on in Hanukkah time, etc., etc. You just have to look to see it. So this week's Seder is Kisesi, I think. Although I've been rushing about the world. When I'm rushing about the world, I've lost track. Would you say it's Kisesi?
Yes.
Good. In that case, see, I may be rushing about the world, but I'm not so lost. So Kisesi, because the name of the shir, if you remember, is Choices and Strategies for the Yom Hadin.
Right.
Choices and strategies, that's very important. Let's see if we can make some headway in this. So in the Seder it says, when you go to war against Oivecho, instead of saying, the Alshik says, it's very interesting here, Kitetse, it's not Kitetsu, it's you in the singular. I'm going to say Kitetsu, Al Oivecho, that's in the plural. V'nosna Hashem l'kech, and Hashem's going to give him, that singular again, B'yodecha v'shabes ha'shivi, and you're going to take a captive. One captive? Captive.
It seems to go back and forth.
Seems to be back and forth. So, just to quickly get into this, because we've got lots to say here, the Alshik says that the very absolute fundamental ingredient for any Jewish army to win any war, for Klal Yisrael to win any war, is when there's achdus between Klal Yisrael. So therefore, as he says it, you'll go as one. You will be unified. If there's Peirut, and there's times in Jewish history that you find this in Tanakh, when the Jewish people were riddled with the Avodah Zarah and all sorts of stuff, but they won wars, which should not possibly have been the case. But they won the war simply because they had Achdus. Achdus is a hugely important thing. And it says, Hashem is going to give your enemy, Oivecho, and what's the again singular, and the answer is that it can be just like in Mitzrayim. It's not just the Egyptians, but it's the Egyptians and their Sar. There's this idea of this angel that is the dominant, the force of the people, or the embodies the idea. But anyway, you're going to take and then it says it's going to take a captive, and again, because even though they're mighty in number, there'll be like one captive, there'll be one defeat, there'll be just like one compared to you. Even though they outnumber you, it'll be like you're fighting one guy. But it is a Shiva, so you see amongst the Shivya, you see amongst the captives, Ashes Mastar, an extremely beautiful girl, but you desire her, but you take her wife. But basically, so here the Pasuk says, what you're supposed to do, you're going to take her into your house. The Gilcha es Rosha, so you're going to shave off her hair. Oh, wait, I can hear more millions. You're going to shave her hair, but also es Tziporneho, interesting expression, but also we will do her nails. And this is not going to the hair salon. So the hair salons are the nail salon, where the nails are all sort of like done beautifully, but rather they're going to have sort of like that horrible black half moon, so keep checking his nails are okay. But Heser is seamless shivya me'ala, and she takes off the beautiful garment from her. But Yoshua B'Sekon is just going to stay in your house, and this is interesting. It's already said in your house. But you're basically Besa El Toik B'Sekon, and you're going to take her into your. Come and sit here. Oops, at the end of the table. And you will take her into your house. So it's already said take her into your house, and she's got to. Hair shaved off, etc. I'm going to take off the garment. Rashi says that this garment is a designer garment that she wears in order to be taken as a captive, in order to be captured by a soldier.
She wanted to be captured.
She wants to be captured. We'll come to that in a second.
Seduce him.
Sorry?
She's trying to seduce him.
She's trying to seduce him. That's right. Seduce him. You say seduce in American? I'm learning to be an American. Seduce him. Okay. Seduce. England, they wouldn't be seduced, they'd be seduced. As seamless Shivya Meleo, so that beautiful garment that she's wearing. Sorry?
I didn't see that coming.
Right. And this beautiful garment is removed from her. But Yoshua the second is going to say in your house. So the second time it says your house. And she's going to, she's going to mourn her, cry for her mother and father for a whole month. And after that, and you marry her, and then she's going to be a wife. And then it says, and if it is that you don't want to marry her, and you're going to send her out free. And this bit, I picture in my mind Hashem with a big smile on his face when he says this bit. And if you don't want to marry her, so let's see. So the Al Shulchan Kodesh, remember, we're talking about strategies when it comes to the Yom Hadin, etc. The Al Shulchan says here some very, very interesting things. You see, what has happened here is that he says there are two types of war you can go out to. There's the normal warfare when you go out to war against, an army which is, and you've got to use military tactics. And he brings here from the Chovos Levovos a story interesting. Mi'ish Porish asher holach lekabel b'nei Chayil Alexandrus. There was a great tzaddik who once went to greet the soldiers, the returning soldiers of Alexander the Great's armies. And they'd fought, apparently I don't know exactly what battle it was, it seems to be a famous battle, like most of Alexander's, but they laid siege to a city and they conquered a city that was thought of as being impenetrable. And of course, there is massive rejoicing we'll come back to this rejoicing in a second, massive rejoicing when you've won a battle. You've not been chopped into pieces because it was very bloody. Well, warfare is always bloody, but it's very up close and personal in those days. And they've survived. So he said to them, why so happy? You've only won a little battle. Why don't you prepare yourself for a big battle? And they thought the guy was a lunatic. There was a joke in their eyes. And this was like a famous city, the impregnables. Nobody going to beat that. What's a bigger fight than that? It's the fight that God wants you to fight.
Is it Greek soldiers?
Sorry?
He was talking to Greek soldiers
Greek
about
soldiers.
Yetzer?
Yeah. And that was the fight. You have to fight against the Yetzer Hara. There's a much bigger battle. The Alshuk goes on to say that really there are the analogy is very, very stark, because in fighting against a normal army, your intention is to destroy them. Here, fighting against the Yetzer Hara is not to destroy him, but rather to make him your Eved, to subserviate him to you, because you're supposed to serve Hashem b'chol levavcha, two bases, your Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Tov. You can use the Yetzer Hara for a positive thing as well. So you want to take command of this. So it seems a very, very... There's two types of war. One is just war, and if you win, well, that's fine. But, there's another a much greater challenge, and that's what he's talking about. Fine. So let's just picture this in our mind. A Jewish soldier goes out to war, a young man, and he anticipates, if you see yourself across a battlefield in those days, as I said, it's up close and personal. They're waving their swords at you. Basically, they're saying, we're looking forward to chopping bits of your body off. Your ear, your arms, your legs, your head, obviously. It's horrible. And of course, the noise of battle, you must have been terrified, but let's assume you survive. You survive this battle. How must you have felt after you survived the battle? Relief and elated, and absolute elation, having won that. And if you won the battle, if you survived the battle, as we say every morning in our davening, in the Shira, Hashem Yishmachal Hashem Shema. History is absolutely full of battles that should have been lost and were won, and one that should have been lost. When tiny armies defeat much greater armies. Without going, he gives example of David HaMelech and Goliath, and Avram and Eliezer defeating an army single-handedly. If we go to, forgive me mentioning it, but the Vietnam War, when a tiny army, a tiny people was, beat. They never lost. They never actually won any battles. Every battle they lost, that they beat, they won the war against the mighty United States of America. Or if you know anything about classical history, the 300 Spartans at the Pass of Thermopylae, they held off a Persian army for 3 days. That sort of stuff. So that sort of thing can certainly happen. But he says, what happens is you've won this battle. You did it, and you won the battle because Hashem Yisborach allowed you to win the battle, and you express your enormous gratitude to Hashem by the first time you see a pretty girl, a non-Jewish girl, whoosh, off you go. That's quite a slap in the face to Hashem who saved your life. And as soon as you see this attractive-looking girl, fine. By the way, just to bring up your point about them dressing to be captured, there's a sefer called Kermit Svi from the first Manchester Rosh Hashiva, and he says something very interesting. He says, in those days when nations went to war against each other, not only did they think that it was a battle between their armies, but also it was a battle between their gods. If you lost, and I'm afraid the American phrase "duh" comes in, you say to yourself, "Duh, I should have been worshipping their gods. They had much better and more powerful gods than our gods all the time." So those who were defeated naturally and immediately wanted to give themselves over, to attach themselves to the new dominant force, because they had better gods than you.
Jump on the bandwagon.
And indeed, incidentally, the Romans and the Greeks too, as far as I know, all of them would take the gods of the defeated nations into their Parthenon, into their temples, as minor gods, because they all believe in all these gods. It's just that ours are much better than yours. Right? Of course, that never happened to Claudius throne. But in this girl's case, if her husband's not come back from battle, then he was a rubbish husband, he was a rubbish soldier, and we worship rubbish gods. I want to sign up to the new guys. When I was a student at university, maybe I shouldn't say that, maybe it shouldn't be videoed. But I worked on summer vacation. This bit's kosher in a non-Jewish bookstore, like a one of these major chains of bookstores.
Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble, that's system. So there was one in Glasgow called Grant's, which I loved. I found it very enjoyable. Anyway, so there was a book that was on sale at the time. It was called The Sheikh's Guide to Getting a Jewish Husband. Absolutely true. And the book was always a comedy and all sorts of funny cartoons and teaching non-Jewish girls how to be Jewish. No, how to be Jewish wives. The guilt trip. There's a whole chapter on how to guilt trips and stuff. Anyway, but at the beginning of the book, it said, obviously extraordinarily tongue-in-cheek. Everybody knows that Jewish men make better husbands than non-Jewish men. They earn more on average. They don't become alcoholics as much as non-Jewish men, and they tend not to beat up their wives. This is how to get one. This was the whole spiel of the book. But there's an interesting thing here, because you've got to take her into your home, and she's got to, so her hair, which is a woman's crowning glory, as Mesilas Yesharim bringing the Medrash says that Hashem himself did have his hair when he brought her to Odom Rishon under the chuppah. That goes. The fingernails start to look horrible. The beautiful Armani dress or whatever, that's replaced with some old schmata. Have I missed anything out? Oh yeah, and you've got to take her into your house and she's got to cry for her mother and father for a month. So the first three you can easily impose. You can just grab the girl and shave off the hair. You can rip the beautiful dress off and replace some old schmata.
How do you make somebody cry?
Sorry?
How do you make somebody
how do you make her cry for a mother and father? A mother and father, remember, we're talking in the days of Avodah Zarah, when a child was commonly given, the first child was commonly given to be burned alive to the gods. These were not nice people. It's not unreasonable to assume that her father could have been, he could have sexually abused her, except he could beat her up regularly, and, maybe he's not such a nice guy, maybe he's an alcoholic, maybe the man's an alcoholic. Maybe being taken by a Jewish man is the best thing that ever happened to her.
Maybe he's not dead.
Maybe he's not dead.
Rashi says Avi are the Zoras.
Yeah. It's a
Not
literally. Yeah.
Even more so.
Yeah, even more so.
And they can cry.
However, he says it's something which is extraordinarily brilliant. So I'll read this little bit to you in the Alshich here. So he says, there are 4 elements that led this Jewish boy to desert Yiddishkeit.
She must be converted as well.
Tricky. Oh, wait. Come to that. Wait a second. Let me read to you. Hey, Dover Chodesh. The first thing you have to bear in mind, he's never seen anything like this before. He's never seen anything like this before. Don't want to go off a tangent too much. I find this very difficult to do. But I once discussed with the Russian case of Ravon Gurevich later the question, somebody had asked him the question about what do you do with the Maimar Chazal that says you shouldn't marry a girl until you've checked out the brother. Suppose the brother is a bum, and you probably saw that famous video with the Reb Chaim Kanievsky in which the guy asked him this question, and he said, the Bocher said to Reb Chaim, what does it mean? And he said, well, does he learn Torah? Is he Ben Torah? And then the boy said, what if she's got one brother that's good and learns Torah and one that doesn't?
Or none.
No, he asked that question. And Abraham said, marry half of her. It's okay. So I once asked Rabbi von Gurbitz once to chat in this Gemara, and he said something very interesting. He said the Gemara doesn't apply today. The Gemara is discussing a set of circumstances, i.e., that at the time when it was, the time of certain times.
Homeschooling.
Sorry?
Homeschooling.
Think of Shimon and Levi and their revenge for their sister. She went outside. Women generally didn't; they stayed at home. Now that means to say that your exposure to males and boys is extraordinarily limited, and therefore, when you're bringing up your own children, then you're going to base it surely on the male you know. That's going to be your brothers. So therefore, check the brothers out, because that's like the likely way that she's going to be bringing up your children. And therefore, if the brother is, not with her, and that's the way she's going to bring up her wife. I think I mentioned when I started to have my children, it was a bit of a panic for me. I never saw children being brought. I'm an only child. I never saw any other children being brought up. But at least when my first children were born, my first 4 were sons. I could base it roughly on my own. I was a boy once upon a time. But when my daughters were born, absolute panic. How do you bring up girls? Girls are radically different to boys. I know sisters. I've never seen that stuff. So I know real hands-on experience of bringing up girls. Same here. If the girl is somebody who is not going to be exposed to the world outside boys generally, which makes sense, and even today, even though there's much more exposure, but we want them not to be meeting boys except in the right circumstances at a certain stage in her life and want to get married to one. Then she's likely to base herself on that experience. So go back to this girl. She is made herself as attractive as possible. So here's what he says. She's new. He's never seen one before. The girl he saw was his sister. The boy she saw was the brother. Jewish girls are tzniistic. I assume when she's wearing her gown, the Alshik says that the dress that she's wearing wasn't tzniistic, right? So he's seeing something who, I suppose, is like a Playboy magazine. He's never seen that before. You don't walk down the street in Bnei Brak and see girls walking about in miniskirts. Go to Tel Aviv for that. But at the time of the Chumash, she's never seen any girl like that. She's wearing, she had low cut and short skirts or whatever it is. So it says, he's seeing somebody, she's wearing makeup, maybe he's never seen that before, something the like of what she's never seen before. And he sort of can imagine like in the cartoons, the eyes coming up with this little spring, boing, right? Okay. Ki teva kol dober chodesh, says the Ashur. It's the way of something which is chodesh. It's a taiva le'inayim. Something new draws your eyes. Somebody drives down the street, with a new Tesla. I was staying here in Cleveland, Ohio, on Monday, and I was staying with a guy I know from Manchester who lives there, and he gave me a lift to show in his Jaguar SUV. That's interesting. It's something new. You go, right? She's new. Kishom Yaznai Gasotin Ba'omer L'chol Ro Me'ezeh Chodesh Asher Atam Zeh Shalo Yitam Mimecho Alterav La'ez Mitzazuk Isha. It's new is very seductive. It's very hard to draw your eyes away from something new. New. Bear in mind new. Second, base. The way she's dressed, her diamonds and her jewelry, she had all her jewelry and her most beautiful dress, that was seductive. And he says, they were all in order to cause you to think, to burn your attraction to her in your heart, add hataivas the shechva etzlias imo, that you want to sleep with her, to have a sexual relationship with this girl, woman. Another factor that caused all this, roiv shalva menucha, the incredible peace and serenity you felt after the battle. The battle is the most noisy thing in the world, the screams of the injured and the dying, but after you walk away from the battlefield and suddenly it's peace, you hear birds twittering and whoa! And listen to this. Key. You were absolutely terrified, noise. V'cher, mecher, v'mogen, v'chetzim. The arrows are flying, the spears are being thrown, etc. And you see this woman. And you find yourself afterwards, after the battle. A replacement. You go from one extreme to the other. A second before you thought you were going to die. And now, wow, tremendous shalva. And that itself will be seductive. That process, when you're elated, that will, and then he says that quite clearly in this one. And the fourth thing, simchas kalkecha sholav v'nitzchim. You're drunk with your success. You've got all the spoil of the battle that you've taken. You've the money and whatever it is, the gold from the dead soldiers and all that sort of stuff. That itself will be seductive to you. So the four elements.
I always imagined that this woman is there to distract the enemy from fighting.
She's not in the battlefield. This is after the battlefield or near the battlefield.
That's
Maybe. Actually, she could be a camp follower. You're quite right. I never thought about it. Maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe.
you can have people killing each other and saying, I mean, it's
Well, the
practically it doesn't make sense.
Look, in the United
But
States.
she's coming after the battle, after the enemy has
Well,
lost.
actually, it's very interesting. This, if you know anything about your own history, you'll know that the first battle of the Civil War, which was just outside Washington D.C., then all the inhabitants went in their carriages to watch the battle. Right, and it was, they're all sitting there, the ladies with their little umbrellas. Oh, his head's been blown up, etc. And then of course the Union forces and so they ran the other way. But actually, women went to do that. And these are not women who are trying to be Mizana, trying to get themselves seduced. Spectators, people did that sort of stuff. So I don't know exactly how that worked. But the important thing is that all these are the processes which were present in order to which seduced this boy. Remember, the parshas that we're reading are connected to the times of year that we're in, and Hashem is Baruch, who saved you, whom you've just spat in his face, or as the Gemara puts it even more crudely, you've taken Hashem's head and put it down in the toilet bowl full of soil.
Why is it allowed in the first place?
Sorry?
Why is it allowed?
So the Alshach says that, it's Bechira. That's Bechira. Yeah, when it comes to war, I'll do the war.
She's not Jewish. Why am I allowed to marry?
Right, okay, so hold on. So, again,
Because you're not going to control yourself.
that's very important. So there's a thing called a battlefield rape. So the halacha allows you, the halacha does not allow you. The halacha does not prosecute you for raping a woman in battle. Interestingly, by the way, I saw 4 or 5 years ago, because of course the world will not let Jews or Israel do anything right, some Israeli left-wing person brought out a whole study about the fact that Israeli soldiers, because Israeli soldiers are terrible, and you see all the cartoons of the swastikas in their head by all the guys who really have got swastikas in their hearts, that basically the interesting thing is that they don't rape Arab women. And soldiers not raping, do me a favour. And the statistics are, it just doesn't happen. Therefore, this woman brought out this whole study that just doesn't happen, and therefore, that proves they're racists.
Oh.
Actually, it's not. You despair. Absolutely, okay. But in a battle, in a war, if a soldier rapes a woman, if a soldier rapes a woman over and over and over again, after the battle, and that's just rape. But if he grabbed a woman, as it were, and raped her, he is not normal. You're not talking about a rational person at that stage. If you're walking into battle, we're walking in line, right? And there's arrows coming, your best friend, where there's days of arrows or bullets or musket balls or whatever, or cannonballs, and your buddy or your brother, not unlikely, is walking beside you and he's hit by a cannonball and you're covered in his brains. Well, I think, if I remember rightly, the figure for the United States forces fighting in the Pacific, going from island to island, clearing the Japanese forces, when they hit the beaches, and when they mowed down, 10% became permanently insane. I think that's the figure. 10% went totally mad.
PTSD.
Well, yeah, more than that, because that's at the time they just lost it completely, and they never recovered, because you're seeing things. You see what people walking about. I've got a friend. I'm going completely off the subject. I have a friend called Rabbi Ivan Lerner, and he told me that his father was in D-Day, My father was in the Beaches DD +4. His father was he was an American. My father was in the British forces. His father was in the American forces, and he was in DD. And his father is very interesting. He came back from the war. He took off his uniform. He put his uniform in the closet in a bag, and he just seamlessly went back into as though it never happened. Right? Later on, he took his dad once, and they went to see a film called Saving Private Ryan, which apparently has got an opening scene which is a reconstruction of D-Day. And he said, and you see people walking about holding, their arms up the severed, so he's holding his arm, so they're in shock or something. So, can you stick this on for me, sort of thing. And people with their heads blown up, all this sort of stuff. He took his father to see it, and he found out was an old guy, and suddenly the father was somewhere, rigid. And you could see his father was aware. I said, let's go outside, Dad. So they sat there, and just sat very quietly. And he said, what's wrong with him? What's wrong? And he said, that's exactly how it was. That brought it back to him. But
he was able to lock it out.
He was able to lock it out, which is interesting. But a battlefield rape, you cannot prosecute somebody when they're mentally ill. You put somebody in a hospital who's mentally ill, but somebody who's mentally ill will kill somebody that he thinks you're, a monster coming to get him, somebody schizophrenic. You don't hang them for that. You don't electrocute them for that. You put them in a hospital because they're not well. Right? In a battle, no soldier is normal. You couldn't.
This is after the battle.
Sorry?
This is after.
Oh, that comes after the battle. If you rape then in the battle, that's okay. But now, afterwards, what happens if you've had a taste of it? Now, so that just wait. So hold on. So here, the Rebbe is saying, what were the factors, or what are the factors that are going to take this guy away from me? The newness, the beauty of the girl, her hair, and all that sort of stuff. So here we're going to deconstruct the process that took him away. Instead of being angry with him, I'm going to deconstruct this. So what does he do? So he deconstructs it by simply saying, right, okay, you want it? Fine. Now this is a tactic. This is Hashem's tactic. He knows this is too big a yitzhar to ask you for. You're going into war. So guess what? You want her? Fine. It's just that. You're going to take her into your house for a month. Why a month? Number one was, Hayisa Dover Chodesh. Her newness. Now you're trying to say, fine, no problem, you want her, fine, but you just got all this little tiny, a month, a big deal. No? Take her into your house for a month. Alright. So therefore she's not new anymore. Now, the other thing was she was dressed to kill. Or to kill his Yiddish guy, right? Okay. So that beautiful dress, or that seductive dress, whatever we want to describe it, that's thrown in the garbage. And she's got to wear some old house coat, some old shmata, right? Something from his mother or something. Okay. That's that. The hair, the crime and glory of any woman, that's gone. And the fingernails, etc. Fine. So you can impose that. That's to take away the newness. The shalva and the menucha, though, the peace and serenity that he felt led him to this, or the simcha, they feeling so good. And here the Alshik is extraordinarily funny. He says, he emphasizes it twice, which we mentioned before. Twice he says, take her into your house, el toich beisecho. Now again, to beisecho. And our question was, Moshe asked this, how can you guarantee she's going to cry for mother and father for a month? Mother and father might be horrible people, being taken by a Jewish husband, just like that funny book said, might be the best thing ever happened to her. At what stage in your life do you own a house, normally?
Married.
When you get married, says the Alshach. You'll take her into your house.
What will your wife say?
Your Jewish wife. I'll read this bit to you because it's so funny. If I can find the bit. Yeah. But Tachas Yasa Baros Shalva, and the fact that you got involved in this because of the feeling of peace, and you're the best guy in the world, you want the feeling of Shalva, the feeling of serenity. To dwell in your house. Kalaima, to say Bekerev Beisecha, that means say in your house, Im Ishtecha HaYehudis, with your Jewish wife, Laman Yir Balachom Edani Isha Kashim Lachamas Gog B'Magog, in which case you will suffer at your wife's hands. There'll be hell and noise worse than the battlefield, worse than Gog the Magog in your house. It will be constant. This, he says, is what you brought me. The wife says to him, from the battlefield. This is the jewels you promised me. No. And then, did you have a chuppah with her? Did you have condition with her? And he goes on and makes a whole spiel of it. And that's why I said I see a smile on Hashem's face, because after this whole process, the imlocha fancy one, and if you don't actually want to go through with it, well, yeah. But the important thing is that Hashem is now deconstructing the process that led us away. You might think that at this
Could be
stage...
not married.
Sorry?
Could be not married.
Could be?
Could be he's not married.
Could be he's not married. Well, then why can take a Beis Sechad and then Beis Avicha?
So you can't take it then.
No, but again, the idea is...
Either one.
Yeah,
Either
there might
mother or the wife is gonna
I'll
take
be a
it.
loch, that's not the case, but they also certainly
In
say...
Parshas Achimos, the Chipur Ba'Bo Ba'Beis means his wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bias means a wife.
Yeah, Vice means...
Are we assuming that he raped this girl? And
Yes, they also said this.
So it's a case like that. That's what
Yeah, but you want more. I mean, you know, as they also says...
Well, it can't just
I
be I
remember
saw
it's
her.
brand
I
new.
didn't rape her, but I
Yeah, it's complicated. It's complicated. I'm not, there's not actually raw halacha here. But the hashkafa the Alshich is trying to get at that is... So we're deconstructing the four elements, the shalva, the newness, the beautiful dress, etc., your psychological feeling that led to this. I want you back.
Why did David...
You're my son. I want you back. I don't want you lost. Oh, so you slapped me in the face? I know you slapped me in the face. But look, you're younger fathers, all you guys, but the truth of the matter is, no father wants his son to get lost. And even when the son has got lost, you still want them back. Even they hurt you a lot. And I've told you once a story about that. So we've deconstructed the four elements. Rabbi Dessler, in Michtam Eliyahu, he goes in a slightly different direction. And he talks about how do you guarantee that you don't slap Hashem in the face? How do you do this? And he talks about something called tearing down the bridges. Tearing down the bridges. A shorthand way of doing Teshuvah. We're only, how many days are we away from Rosh Hashanah? It's not too long, a couple of weeks. How do you do Teshuvah successfully? Well, it's a big process, Teshuvah. But there are strategies to, as it were, at least start the process rolling. And he says, tear down the bridges. There is always a trigger. The Yetzer Hara always has a trigger in order to get you to do something you know you shouldn't do, right? Usually it's something you see, particularly men, things that you see. So he says, if it is a bad chevra, if it's a bad group of guys who lead you astray, if it is a bad thing, the internet, if it is, or movies, or whatever it is, if it is, or a place to go to, and that, then you've got to tear down the bridges. It's like a gun. The gun doesn't fire without a trigger. If you remove the trigger, the gun can't fire. So therefore, remove yourself from the situation or from the circumstance of the trigger to get you into trouble, and you should be... Now, has that changed you? So there's a Rabbi Dessler in Michtam Eliyahu Chelik Aleph, in his Essay on Chesed. I remember I used to teach this to my Talmud East of Talmidim, the older guys in Yeshiva taught the younger guys, in Musa Seder and Gates for half an hour. And I remember I was looking at this, actually I was learning this myself once, and I spent I think about 5 minutes trying to translate this word. And he's talking here about the following thing. Gam ki yovash adam avol sharash hara, even if it's the case that people do they're controlled from doing bad things by the consequences of their action. And therefore you're ashamed or you're embarrassed or you're scared to do it. But inside them, they haven't changed. They're just not doing it because they'll get in trouble. Which is theft in this particular case because he's talking about chesed. It's in tight. It's just you're scared to do anything about it, but it's there. And this is the word that gets stuck out. And therefore, never believe in society. Ubitsivalatzia shalo. And I was trying to. What does that word mean? Base tzadik yud base yud lamed yud zayin tzadik yud henam betsivu bitshilu but I couldn't say it. Pronounce it. Bitzivat and civilization. Kitachas ma'at ze yirma b'yignai. Because underneath. The human nature is such that a person will cheat and steal, but yigzal and bash you over the head and muck you, but he'd say, and kill you. In Gavar Gil Chazal, to remember, and Hashem said that when they say of him as in Imol and Morishol Malchus, if it wasn't for the fear of government, then Ish Ezra'i Chaim Below, this is in Pirkei Avos, the Ber Gimel Mishnah Beis. If it wasn't for fear of the government, people would swallow each other whole. And one of my teachers, Rav Zev Koenig, said, notice it says would swallow, you wouldn't even stop to chew. So, even though that taking away the trigger, removing the bridge that leads you to wherever it goes, it's not changing you really. But it's at least you're saying, I don't want to do it. I might still have the taiva for whatever it is that you're embarrassed to stand in 2 weeks' time in front of Hashem and say, I did it. At least if you're showing him, you're trying to remove the trigger. That's a good thing. Rabbi Dessler calls this process the only the beginning, or actually, to be frank with you, he calls it the worst sort of teshuvah. Teshuvah hanemucha. This is in Cheli base, and in page 80, he talks about different types of teshuvah, but here he calls it teshuvah's hager. But that sort of teshuvah, I don't want to do it anymore, I'll remove the trigger. That's the teshuvah of the ger. Why is it teshuvah of the ger? Listen, madriga teshuvah hayos hanemucha, the lowest type of teshuvah, he sheshov rak alidei sheporish minachet. That is that you've stopped yourself from doing that, from repeating the process. And he tells you how to do that. Take away the mechanism that allows you to do it. From now on in, right? I've now thrown away my iPhone. I've now got hammered through my computer, or I've disassociated myself from the guys of bad influence. But you've not really changed your inside. You just feel guilty about doing it and you want to stop yourself doing it. But that's a good thing. But you haven't changed your inside. You still have desire for whatever the thing is that you did before. So therefore, as a consequence, you've not changed the thing you've done in the past. You're still the same person inside. That's like the tshuva of a non-Jewish person who comes to become a ger. Why? Ger kekatan shadal dami. Because as a non-Jewish person becomes Jewish, it's like a newborn baby. So therefore, you now move on. The past is gone. That guy doesn't exist anymore. And now you move on. So that's the same sort of process we're talking about here. So that's why he uses the metaphor or the analogy of a ger. Because a ger makes a brand new start. But if you just, as it were, take away the trigger so you can't do it anymore, then you want to say, right, I'm moving on from here, but you haven't changed the past. But it's a start. So here's a strategy, because I've only got 2 weeks left and we're not going to do tshuva, which is a whole lifetime's process in 2 weeks. We're going to get there for another 2 shirim before Rosh Hashanah. But a strategy you can use is, just like before, what is it, just like the Alshon, what Hashem says, what is it that led you astray? Right? The newness of the thing, the excitement of the thing, the taiva of the thing, the circumstance of your... If those circumstances lead you astray, you've got to reverse the process. You've got to decompose the circumstances that happen. Also, you have to remove the triggers that can lead you to get into trouble in the first place. But it's a start. But it works. You can walk into Rosh Hashanah saying, I've removed all the triggers that lead me to do something wrong. That's a reasonable thing to say to Hashem in Rosh Hashanah. The Rambam, Rambam Perik Beis and Halacha Aleph, of Hilchos Teshuvah, says the following thing. Ezehi Teshuvah Gemara. What is a complete Teshuvah? That's only the beginning. What's Teshuvah Gemara? So this is famous, you know this. Zu Shabbat Lidei Dvar Sha'over Ba Ve'ef Shabiyod Al-Asas Peresh V'lo Asam V'nei Teshuvah. This is different. That is to say, and he's using the example he gives is a sexual crime again. But this is a person who's done Teshuvah, and the same thing that he did in the past is now presents itself to him, but he doesn't do it, not because the circumstances have changed, or he's distanced himself so it's impossible to do it, but it's very possible to do, but he doesn't do it because he's done Teshuvah. Lo me'ira, not because he's scared of the consequences, lo me'kishla in the koyach, and not because he's an old guy and no longer can do it. Kate, for example, hu shabo al isha ba'avir. So you have a sexual relationship with a woman which you're not allowed to have. So it could be, let's make it the non-Jewish secretary in the office. Classic, a cliche type. So you have a sexual liaison with this, very attractive girl who wants to advance her career despite of the Me Too time that we're living in. We'll not comment too much about that. Therefore, afterwards, 2 weeks later, you find yourself in exactly the same. Everybody's gone out the office. You're just alone, just like I happened the last time. She's stunningly beautiful. She's very available to you. She's attracted to you, whatever. And this time you don't do it. So, but the circumstances are. Listen to the Lashon. But achas man nisachadamos. You're alone with her again. I mean, why you'd be alone with her again? I don't know. Okay. But who I'm a bahaval sign. You're just as attracted to her as you were before. And you're physically strong as you were before. You're not an old guy, so you can't do it anymore. Who perish, but you don't do it. Then you know that you're about Shuba Gemara. But incidentally, I just want to point out the Rambam not saying put yourself in the circumstances to see if you're about Shuba. Okay. Who Shlomo Omar the Zocher Esberecha, and then fine, and then he gives lots of examples of that. So the real Shuba is that you've changed. So if you ask yourself, and the Rambam's Lashon is interesting, you were identically attracted to the girl whom you committed adultery with, or whatever it would be, as the last time. She's just as available. The circumstances are identical. Everything is the way it was before 2 weeks ago. But this time you don't. So what's changed? If everything's the same as before, the answer is you've changed. You've changed. The person that committed adultery with this girl looks like you, but that's not you. So that's when you've changed completely. But the first start is to get yourself away from thing in the first place. That's another strategy. Then there is a famous, in the beginning, there is a famous Rambam in Perik Aleph, and if I remember rightly, it's Alok Adalat. Avabi Shuva Mekaperes. Now, up to now, we've talked about the circumstance of doing tshuva with regards to you and your relationship with Hashem. It says, even though, let's continue our theme, even though that tshuva atones for everything, that's encouraging. And Yom Kippur itself, even apart from tshuva, is an independent process to, as it were, sort you out. There are some averas that are forgiven immediately, and sometimes it needs a little time. Ketat. Over Adam is to say, famously, this person doesn't do an essay. You didn't put on tefillin in the morning. A positive mitzvah on tefillin, and you didn't put it on. And you regret it. If you really do tshuva, it's forgiven straight away, and your record is wiped clean. That's if it's an essay. What if it's a lois essay? So you ate pork. Then what? Okay. Avram, Mrs. Loisa say she'in by chorus. If you do a Loisa say and there's no penalty of chorus of dying prematurely as part of the process, v'loy Mrs. Beistin nor Mrs. Beistin. But when you do tshuva toilet, then tshuva is always essential, but it doesn't work. That's not part of the record yet. But Yom Kippur mechaper. So you need Rosh Hashanah, so Yom Kippur and tshuva, and then the pork sandwich that you ate, that gets forgiven, right? But what if it's the case that what you did requires Mrs. Beistin? Then what you need to do there is you need Yom Kippur, and you need Teshuvah, and you need sorrows that come to you during your lifetime. And all three will purge the record. What am I talking about? Says the Rambam, Hashem. But as long as you didn't do a Chilul Hashem. But if you do a Chilul Hashem as well, then here's the great news. You need Tshuva. You need Yom Kippur. You need suffering. And then, death! Yes, on the day of your death, the last bit that gets you forgiven is death, and it is. So this is Reb Moshe Sternbuch from Yerushalayim. He says, Rambam kan noel esadelis, listen to this Lashon. Harambam kan noel oid mehadelis lebali tshuva. He slammed the door in the face of Bali tshuva. She'im over b'chai v'chrisis la'olam lo yizkaper lo elam yisurim. If you've done something that requires that is a chai of krisis, then you're going to have the only way you're going to be forgiven is as part of the process is lots of pain, and not only that, but also misa. However, that's not true. Oh well, it's not true. But there is a way around this. There's an alternative, there's a plan B. Shorosh Bali Tshuva David HaMelech, because the greatest Baal Tshuva of all was David HaMelech. And he says, Medechel Hashem, Eschalazeh, Hashem Shemaim, Lachar Shechazah B'Tshuva, Mesbal Lev Torah, Omar Alanda B'Shem, Medrecha, V'chetem Alech L'Tshuva. But after he did Tshuva, it says in Tehillim, I'm going to teach B'Shem your ways that you can get out of this without. What were you saying? What was the answer?
Bathsheba?
Yeah, with the Bathsheba, yeah. Because in this way you're going to get rid of the Ika Tfilas. I'm missing out a little bit here, and he brings a bit of Yoina. Missing out this big chunk here. But the way that you can get rid of Chilul Hashem is Kiddush Hashem. And you don't, he says, have to go through. David Melech didn't die. He got Kapara for what he did thing with Bathsheba during his lifetime. Why? Because he made a Kiddush Hashem. If you make a Kiddush Hashem as well, then that works. Here's another strategy. But all that we've been talking about is the Rambam goes on in Perek Beis and Tes to say all that is if we're talking about being Odom L'Mokim. But in the Shul v'lo yom kippurim b'chaprim ela al aver shebin Odom L'Mokim kegoin misha ochel dover oser or bal bel savera. So it's illicit sexual relationships, non-kosher food, etc. Ava aver shebin Odom L'Chavera kegoin achayim l'Chavera. But there is between other people, in which you hurt somebody else. On the Kalachver, you curse somebody else. A goizla, you steal from him. You don't get forgiven for that until you return the thing that you stole and you appease him. People forget this bit. They go up to say, I'm really sorry. We do that in show. You go up to somebody, I hope you forgive me if I did do wrong. Of course, the terror is they say, what did you do wrong? Oh, you forgive me anything I did to you. What did you do? We don't want to hear them.
Just in case.
You just in case. You've done nothing in particular. I've got mine. Okay. But of course, the important thing is that incredible, as the Rambam says, the incredibly important facet is that you've got to get it right. Just say, look, remember that $100 went missing from when you were in show that morning? Well, it's me. I'm really sorry. Look, I'm a rabbi. People respect me in the shul. Please forgive me. I said, Rabbi, no problem. Of course, I'll keep it between us. Just pay back the $100, and it never happened. Oh, I don't want to pay back the $100. I just want you to forgive me. That doesn't work. If you could repair the damage of what you've done, you're obliged to do it as well. People are far harder to deal with. Hashem can't help you with that. You've got to get. There are immediate strategies and techniques you can use. But one, and we'll do this next week. One is a sefer called Talmud Devar, which Rosh Hashanah used to tell us Talmidim to learn Talmud Devar in Perek Aleph during the month of Elul. That itself is an enormous help. So that, of course, as you know, the Sefer is based on the Yud Gimel Midas. These appear twice in Tanakh. Once, of course, is Hashem Karach B'Chanan. And then later on in Nach, we've got a different version, different words.
Micha.
From Micha, that's right. And there, the words are totally different. So, Micha Kamach, that's right. Who is a God like you? And why? The other ones, first of all, why is it two? Because one is a revelation of Hashem that we'll have before Beis Mashiach, and second, after Mashiach. But here, Ha'adam Roish is at the beginning, it's important for you to try and be like Hashem. And that is the way that you're going to go. Mi de Elef, Mi Kel Kamach, who is a God like you? Moira Aliyaz a Gadish Baruch Men Melech Nelav. That teaches that God is an abused king. He takes insult that nobody else would take. And he doesn't, no other king would do it, just king would have your head off. But no, Hashem waits, hoping the person comes back. What are you supposed to copy from that? I found that when I was first learning this Sefer very, very useful. Sometimes people hurt your feelings and upset you, and you are really, really, how can you have done that to me? I walked into a room and people stand up for me, Rabbi, why women stand up? If the Rebbeinu Shalom himself accepts constantly, repeatedly, insult, day after day, billions of times a day, and from us, again and again and again, and doesn't fight back and isn't upset for his covet, why women's didn't be upset? I found this a tremendous help. But we'll work through some of these next week. Techniques and strategies for dealing with people. Because Hashem can help you and wants to forgive you, but he can't forgive you what you've done to somebody else. You've got to try and put that right yourself. But much better not to get into the mess in the first place. We'll look at some strategies for dealing with difficult people, or as somebody said in a book they wrote, how to live with difficult people, including yourself.